There we go. 4 cups. And in the middle there's the 4th one. In the middle there we had that little macchiato one. So that's where we're at. Now we're going to do the sauces. So what I've done is I have centred the clay that I had weighed out. So the clay that I had weighed out for this was 400. The clay I've weighed out for those mugs is 600. So what I've done is I've centred, then I have flattened out into a nice flat, patty cake sort of thing shape. So, and I'm going to measure now, because it's important to measure when you have a turning point to make sure that you're at that point every time. So when I'm making my cups, I measure my cylinders, then I take it out to a cup. And that helps me to keep my cups all looking the same, roughly in the same shape, and the same size. So this is another step that I do here. So I've got 11.5 going across that way, and if I push the ruler down to the edge of the board, I get about 1.5. So when I come to centre the next lot of clay, flatten it out, I will centre and flatten out to that. So we know that across the bottom of our sauces, it's about 8.5. I'm going to actually probably turn them to be around about 6.5 centimetres. So I want at least the inside measure of my dish to be around about, 8, 9. So considering we've got 11.5 to here, that is possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up, and like we do for a cylinder, we're going to pull the clay out to the edge. Just do this slowly and gently. Don't go wild at it, because you want to do it nice and soft and calmly. Sometimes you need to take that wall back down and blend it in. Again, going across, and we're moving with the flow of the clay. We're not going against the grain. So we're pulling across in the one direction. We're not pushing back against the centre. We're pulling out from the centre to the edge, lifting our fingers, going back into the centre and pulling across again. All right? So we don't push back into the centre. That's my theory. Other people don't have the same theory, and that's okay. So pulling out to the edge and then pushing that edge down to form that, right? So then we're going to push down on our centre bit of our clay and come out. This is helping compress all this clay at the bottom, because when you're making a plate, this clay at the bottom needs to be well compressed. Otherwise you'll get cracking, you'll get warping, you'll get all sorts of things happening. Now when you're going with the clay, with the way the wheel's going, and you're always going the one way, you're less likely to get a warped plate. If I push back against here, the clay is going back and forth like this against itself, and it tends to make it like tides. You'll get pieces of clay pushing up against each other. And that's how you end up with S-cracks and things like that. That's my theory. And I, touch wood, don't end up with as much S-cracks by just doing that principle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this wall up straight. I don't want to pull it out to the side yet. I want to pull it up straight. So making sure that we've got moisture on our hands, both sides, not too much because you don't want the clay to get weak. So using both hands, pushing down at the bottom. When the hands meet together, then you pull to the top, shoring up that lip. Now let's just stop and measure here and see where we're at on the inside. So this is why you have a plastic ruler. Looking across there, we're actually sitting at 8 across. But we've also got to allow for shrinkage, but given the fact that that hasn't shrunk either, so we've got allowed 8 across here. So when we look at it, do we want a saucer? This across the bottom is roughly what? Is about 7. So we look at that and we think, oh, you know, a little bit more space would be nice. And if I wanted to put a sandwich on here, it's not going to be very good to do that. I'd have a very small sandwich or a very little cake. So we want some more room. So we need to take this wall up a little higher. Just move that again for us. We need to take this side wall up a little higher to get us the room in our saucer. So off we go, up a little higher. Making sure that we've got an even lip on that. Then what we're going to do, we're going to stop and measure again. So again, we are 9.5 across the centre, and now from the bottom there we're about 3.5. So again, if we put this on here, still, you know, not enough room, and we're concerned that we won't be able to fit a big sandwich on there. So, like what we do with the bowls, we're going to lean this over, this little wall here over, and take it out a bit. So that gives us more room. I can see that there's a little bit of a wobble in there, so my concern is to get that out before it goes too much further. Go, let's still it up. Right, and then we're just going to use our fingers, starting from the centre, going out, taking it out to the edge, and just gently leaning that wall over. And then shoring up the edge. So again, we're just going to make sure that we've got that wall nice and straight. Get it up. Nice little saucer. Shoring up that edge. Smoothing off the bottom again. Just finishing off this little saucer. Making sure that that's all okay. So on the outside of the saucer, we're going to trim this foot from underneath. So just gently trimming it. what we want to do is just measure to make sure we get our measurements so we can make our next one. So we're sitting at 3.5, edge to edge is just under 14, and across that bottom we're measuring the ring around the bottom, which is 8. Right, and that's where it becomes flat across the bottom. So you've got your wall coming down and then it goes flat across the bottom. So where it starts to go flat, you sort of judge that. Sometimes it's quite hard to see and you won't see it, and then other times you'll be able to, it's very distinct. You can start with making them very distinct if you like. This one I've chosen to blend it in more, so I'm making a guesstimate that it's about 8 centimetres. So I've got 8 centimetres, I've got 14, and then I've got 3.5 on the wall. So that's what I want to write down in my book, so that then I know. But the other thing I also need to write down is the amount of clay that I've used for my saucer and the measurements that I used to throw it. So we put down here saucer, and we've got 400 grams of clay. So, and then we centered. When I've centered for this one, I've centered to 8.5 centimetres with 1.5 centimetres high. Then I've taken the bowl out, so it has an 8 centimetre base inside. It has a 14 centimetre rim to rim, and it is 3.5 centimetres high. So at the end of the day, if I end up liking this, I will then be able to make more of them. So, and I, you know, have the same size. So okay, we're going to take this off and we're going to get on with the next one. And we're going to make another, well, I'm going to make, don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to make another 3 of these to go with my other set of mugs there. And then once these are all made, I will come back and we will trim them. Okay, so we'll go through trimming. Again, taking this off. Some of these bats can get a bit tight. They might just need the little holes where they fit across the lugs, just with a round file, just loosening them off a bit. So it can be that they've swollen a bit too. So it can, and you just got to be careful that you don't oops, there we go, nearly got it off. You don't shutter your pot because that can change the shape of it and you don't want that. So just gently massaging that off and trying to get it off. Sometimes it can be proven to be difficult, but you just need to persist and just be careful that you don't hurt your pot. So there we go, that's got leverage. And just to gently, there we are, we're off. Okay, so that's wonderful. So that's a nice saucer. So once that's turned up, that'll be beautiful. So another 3 saucers, and then I can get on with my next project. Chat to you soon. Okay. I'm Sammy-O, and that's how I do my artwork.